The Asian and Pacific Decade of Disabled Persons, promoted by the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, UNESCAP, has produced excellent, firm results in the countries since it was launched in 1993. Now the decade is entering its last stage, facing 2002, the final year.
Confidence, this is in yourself, so the elderly disabled person to together and this normal person to feel less confident.
My dream is to become a lawyer. Hopefully I can advocate to bring up issues like certain issues which concerns about handicap and criminal cases.
The Campaign 99 Conference for the Promotion of the Asian and Pacific Decade of Disabled Persons was hosted by Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. 760 delegates from 16 countries in the region gathered at the conference in the city, adorned with flags and posters of the general election, which was held after an interval of 12 years. "25 years has passed since the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Disabled Persons was proclaimed. The Asian and Pacific Decade of Disabled Persons follows the spirits of the International Year of Disabled Persons and the United Nations Decade of Disabled Persons, and has succeeded with the great effort of people worldwide to promote full participation and equality of people with disabilities. The annual campaign conference to promote the decade was first held in Okinawa, Japan, and then went around to Manila, Jakarta, Auckland, Seoul, and Hong Kong, China, until last year. Mrs. Zaleha, the Minister of National Unity and Social Development, Malaysia, gave the opening address for the Campaign 99 conference.
Opportunity to welcome you all to this evening's event, which in itself is historically significant. I declare the Campaign 99 Conference open. Thank you.
Tonight, on behalf of RNN, we would like to take this opportunity to express our congratulations to the Organizing Committee of Campaign 1999 Malaysia Conference for their excellent work putting together in this conference.
In the past 7 years, since the inception of the Asian and Pacific Decade, much has been achieved. It is clear that the decade has made a difference in strengthening disability policies and programs. It is also evident that immense challenges remain for the remaining 3 years of the decade.
And I have no doubt that the conference will make a significant contribution towards the more effective participation of persons with disabilities in an industrializing society as we move into the new millennium.
The opening ceremony and the welcoming dinner proceeded amid an enthusiastic atmosphere. Malaysian folk dances and various programs performed by artists with disabilities welcomed the delegates from the respective countries. Campaign 99 Conference had 5 plenary sessions, including symposiums and 17 workshops to discuss diverse issues on lives of people with disabilities. In Malaysia, it was actually the first opportunity of speaking in public for people with physical, intellectual, or psychiatric disabilities, which is one of the great results of this conference.
Whether resources should be for all disabled people, persons with disabilities, so many children and families who need help.
I'd like to talk about the outline of DAISY. DAISY is a system which was originated by the needs and requirements of people who are visually impaired or disabled.
The exchange meetings were held during the conference too, with 5 groups respectively dealing with physical, visual, hearing, intellectual and psychiatric impairment. Those meetings proved very significant, and hot discussions took place on issues directly related to the delegates as persons with disabilities. Suggestions were expressed through exchanging recent situations in their home countries.
Now, I think that because of this conference, there is going to be much closer cooperation between the governments, the NGOs, the welfare-based NGOs, and the public. And this public will include the private sector, because in this conference we have also created a lot of interest from the business sector, which means that we should get more financial support for our work from the business sector. And by doing this at this high level, the conference, this interest has become much more generated.
Eight courses of field trips were arranged to visit institutions and companies concerned with people with disabilities. The delegates from overseas got a chance to come in touch with Malaysian people with disabilities. The delegates with hearing impairment were warmly welcomed to companies where people with the same disability worked. There were many employees with hearing impairment at the factory of pewter products, one of Malaysia's specialities, and also at the factory of Japanese National Panasonic. Traditionally, the welfare of people with disabilities in Malaysia had been supported by workings of active NGO groups. It has gradually changed since 1946, when the Ministry of National Unity and Social Development was established, into a cooperation between the government and non-governmental organizations. Let us hear some opinions of people with disabilities in Malaysia.
I found that most of the places is not accessible for wheelchair people, especially in my case. A lot of barriers.
Being blind means one of the greatest hurdles is access to information like print materials. That has been the major access issue, if ever, but it wasn't taken as an access issue for a long time, And but recently, they also have come to accept and recognize that public access to public facilities and services are also just as important.
Okay, the deaf community in Malaysia, at the moment, we don't have any policy that's been set for our development. And they are not very clear in some areas. For instance, for education, for services provided by the Ministry of Welfare, and where awareness is also concerned for government agencies and for public at large.
Alex, living in the suburb of Kuala Lumpur, avails himself of a wheelchair in his daily life as a result of a disease. He formerly worked at an institution for people with disabilities called Cheshire Home, where he met Terumi, his wife.
Somehow our culture difference are not a problem, because I think we just live as it is. So we don't think of the culture difference. We just live our lives as normal. So things are so far okay.
No, it's my adaptation.
Oh, your adaptation. My adaptation is better.
Terumi is a physical therapist and has come to Malaysia as a member of the Japan Overseas Cooperation Volunteers. Alex works as a clerk at Ming Court Vista Hotel, located in the heart of Kuala Lumpur. He is popular among his co-workers for his cheerfulness and earnestness.
Well, Alex so far, like I say, has performed very well. He's well liked by all of us, and he's ever so cheerful, and he never gives any problems. And he's very mobile. Very mobile, have no problems. He actually does a lot of work for us outside the office, and he's really very mobile with his wheelchair. He has performed a lot of good work for us, so no problems whatsoever with him.
Let us ask Alex about situations of people with disabilities in the local community.
The handicapped people in Malaysia is moving very fast. They are already improving compared to before. Before, when I first became handicapped, there were no facility, no job for us. So life was very hard. But now things are changing, becoming better. So we also can get to be more mobile. A lot of the handicapped are now driving also. So compared to before, it was very sad for them. So things are getting better now.
Alex and Terumi are flying to Palestine to work there as volunteers for the United Nations after this. Having it in their mind to contribute to the society through their work, the couple dream to have children of their own in the future as well. Their borderless lifestyle looks forward to the coming 21st century. Selangor Cheshire Home, located in the outskirts of Kuala Lumpur, accepts people with disabilities of all ages. This home was started in 1963 as a place to offer people with disabilities a chance of education and self-reliance. The maximum number of persons to be admitted was 50 at first, but it has become larger up to now.
At that time, to place disabled people who needs help and also who needs aid from the NGOs, from the non-governmental organization. So at that time, our first president feels that there should be a home of this nature in the country to assist these disabled people. And a group of volunteers started this home. They can earn money from whatever they do in our tailoring workshops. And also the companies near to the home send their products to be assembled by the residents.
I'm 70 since 1968. Sewing, making dolls.
This lady takes charge of accounting and management of this shop.
There are a lot of facilities and programs given by the government and also programmed by the NGOs. The young disabled people should come forward to take advantage of all these programs, and they should be encouraged by their parents, neighbors, and the community around. Then these disabled people will be able to make their life much more better. This home, having all the facilities to help the disabled, reaches out to the public in the area, in this area, those who have disabled children. So the services that we have here are given free to disabled children in the area.
My name is Shamil Amza bin Hisham. I'm 12 years old. I learn dancing, singing, and more. My dreams is I want to be a lawyer.
The children were eagerly practicing folk dancing for the national conference that will be open soon. "20 years have already passed since the last conference for people with disabilities at the domestic level in Malaysia. Taking the opportunity of Campaign 99, the national conference was successfully held at Bangui. In addition to session programs, a prize-giving ceremony and some colourful performances by people with disabilities were held.
I feel nervous and happy to perform.
So what I think is, I encourage them to think positive in any way you do, so that you can achieve your achievement.
If they stay at home, then their life won't have much meaning, so they can't do much. So best for them is go out, enjoy life, be happy always.
The campaign conferences will continue a tour around the countries of the region until the final year of the decade. To achieve full participation and equality of the people with disabilities means to promote society for all too. Let us cooperate more positively to realize a barrier-free Asia and Pacific region through this decade.